everybody. This is a bonus episode. We recorded this the day after Tombs of Amascut was released, so the Thursday. And this was our day one impressions. And by ours, I mean myself, Heartless, and we also bring Deagin and Magpies onto the show, both who have co-hosted the show in the past. So we did a little bit of a roundtable discussion going over the most recent raid, Raids 3, Tombs of Amascut. We talk about the boss fights, the invocation systems, and what we thought about the whole raid in itself. We don't actually talk about the items in this raid because we have talked about it many times before in different dev blogs, and we will probably talk about it on the upcoming episode. But we wanted to focus mostly on the raid itself. And one thing that we didn't really dive into that I wanted to was the music. So what I'm going to be doing is playing the music throughout the episode itself. So you guys can listen to the different tracks for the different bosses when we talk about it. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Do you enjoy these roundtable discussions about one specific content or topic? Let me know. Maybe we can do more of them in the future. But without further ado, let's get into the day one impression of the Tombs of Amascut, featuring myself, Heartless, Deagin, and Magpies. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to a very special, a very special episode. We're doing a little bonus spectacular, a day one in review of Tombs of Amascut, the third raid to be introduced into the game, something a lot of us have been waiting for. But what makes this extra special is this is a bit of a roundtable discussion because we've got Heartless on the show. Heartless, how's it going?
Hey, Dilz, doing well.
And we've got Deagin on the show. You guys have been taking the reins for a few episodes. Deagin, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
And
going pretty good.
Of course, Magpies is also on the show. You've been on. You were co-hosting for a while. Oh God, it's been episodes ago since you've last been on the show. So,
like almost 2 years, a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild party that we have going on here. But we're going to talk all Tombs of Amascut because it has brought all three of you back. Not quite, but all of us have been raiding. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of hear everyone's take. And I feel like everyone has a different. You guys all are big raiders, but you guys kind of have a different mindset, I guess, when it comes to raiding. Is that a good way to describe it? You guys have like different experiences when it comes to raiding. Like Heartless, you're an iron, so you have that iron perspective. Deagin, you're the classic, PVMer, and then Magpies, also kind of a classic PVMer, but you've also dabbled in we do raids and doing learner raids over there as well. You're kind of a Sherpa. Well, at least you used to be. Do you still do that? We do raids?
No, I left. When I quit RuneScape, that was obviously like, why would I keep, teaching something that I wasn't enjoying doing? So I just kind of walked away.
You're bringing all the raiding, all the learner raids down. This game sucks. I hate it.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, all of us, you guys are all on to talk about some Tombs of Amascut. Because it was released the other day, something we've all been very excited about. And Jagex has been almost doing like a trickle tease. Like they've released like trailers every single day for different for each of the bosses, and they've really been hyping this one up. But what I was thinking would be fun is let's go back to like the very beginning. I'm curious to hear Magpies and Deagin your perspective on things. But Heartless, you and I were in the thick of it. Going back to, I think it was 2021, July, when they did the Summer Summit, when they actually teased the Tomb of Amascut raid, something that some of us were hoping for, but I think a lot of us weren't really expecting. Heartless, do you remember those days of hearing Tomb of Amascut being released?
Dark days, Dilz, leading up to that announcement.
And
dark days after.
why do you say that?
Just because we'd been in such a content drought for ages, and then we had to wait a long time. It was about a year. It was a year ago, right? Or was that 2 years ago that the announcement was?
It was like a year and a couple months, I think. I think it was. See, this is the problem with the time between 2020 and today. It's all kind of a blur. I think it was.
Well, we got Next in January,
Mhm.
which was, I think, overall disappointing for most players. And then we had leagues at the exact same time, which simultaneously was disappointing. And then we had to wait quite a while for Raids 3, but I think they've delivered.
Yeah, that's right. We were in a bit of in a content drought, as you mentioned, because Theater of Blood was the last raid that came out, which was 2018. So even, 4 years between raids is that's a long time. That is quite a long time. But a lot of us were hyped because, we've been waiting for this new raid. And I think hearing about a new desert themed raid is very exciting. So it seems quite fitting. Now, Deagin, you weren't playing at the time. And you might have found out because I just came and told you, hey, there's a new raid coming out. What were your thoughts when you heard it was like a desert themed raid? What are your thoughts? You weren't even playing RuneScape at the time. So
yeah, in general, I think I really like the idea, and I like how like thematic it is. I think it's a good idea to have like a raid located in the desert. Just because you have like chambers, it's the Karen, the Zia raid. You got Tob, which is like the vampire, theme, and I do like how they changed the theme so drastically. So it would be really refreshing to go from raid to raid if that's what you like to do. With just the different looks and stuff. I thought it was a really good idea, and then seeing all the trailers and the build up was like definitely pretty exciting, and I like the direction they went with it.
And okay, in Magpies, you also weren't playing at the time, but when you did play, you were a heavy raider. When did you hear about Raids 3 immediately when it was announced? And what was your thoughts as someone who wasn't playing at the time? Like, did you care? Did you not really care? Did you know you were going to come back to play it when it was released, or were you unsure at that point?
I think I didn't actually hear about it until way later, until maybe like the official announcement or whatever. I kind of just stopped keeping up with like RuneScape stuff for a while, and I was pretty busy, so I actually didn't play any video games at all, like for 6-7 months. And then when I did come back, I just like stuck to playing FIFA or something more casual. But I knew always like if I were to take a break, I'd come back for raids. I was really early in my account PVM days when Theater of Blood came out. So I never got the chance to like do the whole day one walk in blind, figure out what's going on, like hear the news of like people discovering different strats and everything, like wiping to something you'd never seen before and been like, how do we do this? So I knew I wanted to come back and like experience that for the first time. And I think I was super pumped when I found out, like I went to check in on a couple people, actually like a bunch of people in the CC as well. And people were talking about the new raid coming. And at that point, it was like a month away. I was like, okay. And that's really what kept me in on Tombs for the first time, I think.
And with this raid, they got a whole new system that they released, which I think is really cool. Like every raid is very different, like the format from one another. You have Chambers of Xeric, which is supposed to be like this weird dungeoneering, rogue-like dungeon crawler. Didn't really. Once we figured out how it worked, wasn't this what we thought. But you get these randomly generated rooms with these bosses and these set bosses and puzzles that you had to kind of work your way through, and then you got to the end boss, and it was all point based. So if you died, you lost points, but you didn't get kicked out. You didn't lose your items, nothing like that. You just lost points, which means the chance at receiving loot was less. And then we had Theater of Blood, which was a more standard raid where, you walk in with a group and there's like 5 bosses and the bosses are all the same every time. And you just have to kill them and beat the boss, and then you get some loot. And then we have this new raid, which is different. And it's kind of like almost like a blend of both, but you get to choose your own path. You walk into this room and then there's 4 paths in front of you and you choose which one you want to go in. But before you even enter the raid, you get to choose what they call them invocations. And these are like what would you call these? Are like these different not buffs, these different settings you can turn on or off. And as you turn them on, it will increase your raid level, which means it'll increase the loot you receive. And also it will increase what uniques get added to your the potential to receive. And right now there's three raid levels. Well, three raid I don't know how you just three raid tiers, I should say. There's entry mode, normal mode, and expert mode, and each of them have a different raid level needed. So, for instance, entry mode is anything between 0 and 149 raid level, whereas normal is 150 to 299, and expert is 300 and up. So, yeah, you can turn these settings off, and there are things like, let's look at this first one here. It's called Try Again, and it limits the overall number of attempts that can be made within the raid to 10. So, an attempt every time every party member dies during the challenge, you lose one of your attempts. And turning this on will give you 5 raid levels. So they have a bunch of different stuff like this. You know, they have ones that limit what kind of food you can eat and that sort of stuff. So you can kind of customize the difficulty of your raid, and you kind of want to min-max to figure out what are you able to complete while still getting as much loot as possible. So what are you guys' thoughts with this system? I guess, especially when you compare them to the other two raids. Heartless, if you want to start off, like, what are your thoughts on the whole invocation system?
I think it's amazing. It brings like an unparalleled level of customization to the raid. So there's going to be a lot that you can tweak, and you can continue to add and make it more complicated. And certain invocations change the rooms completely. So I think it adds a lot of replayability to the raid.
I think that's true.
And it obviously, unlike Theater of Blood, which we've talked about having like a really high ceiling to get into, like it's quite a challenging raid, and it requires you to have, strong teachers. Tombs of Amascut, anyone can just run in with 0 invocations and have a good time. Get the untradeable rewards, do 0 invocations. You can pretty much guarantee to get it first time if you have reasonable gear, because you have unlimited tries to get through the rooms. I think it's amazing so far. I've loved my experience.
I think that's the biggest thing, like looking from the outside in, is they tried to make this raid a lot more accessible to everybody. And I think very early on the drawing board, it was clear, like, how do we make this still challenging enough for people to want to do it as much as they want to do top or chambers, but still make it accessible, because they've talked about wanting the lower tier of players in terms of their progression to still be able to enjoy it. And that's why they added, I think, entry mode for Theater of Blood. And that's, I think, what causes invocations to be like at the root of this raid.
It's a really cool system, and I like that it's so different. But yeah, as you mentioned, you can really, at 0 invocations, it's quite easy to complete. You kind of gotta trial and error to figure out the mechanics for the first round. But for instance, the team that I was running with, we failed each room once, but then the second one we kind of figured out what the fight was like, and we're able to kind of run right through it. Deagin, what's your thoughts on having this sort of invocation settings, and also a raid that you can dive into as a low level? As again, when I was running with this team, we had like some lower levels, like a couple people under level 100 even, and we were able to run through it. What are your thoughts on a raid that is that accessible?
I think it's pretty good. I really like the spot that invocations can play, where it helps like create this hill or mountain that you can climb for like getting better at the game, or like just challenging yourself in PVM, where you can play on entry mode and it's like decently easy, and you can just start cranking it up as fast or as slowly as you want, and you can really bridge the gap between like doing like an easy raid and eventually working your way up to something that's like as difficult as Tob, or getting to those expert modes. And I do like the main thing with the invocations, if there's certain rooms that you have a really easy time doing, you can kind of crank those up and make them more challenging so it's not as bland. And then the difficult rooms you can kind of leave alone as well, so it's not like certain rooms are just so easy they're boring. You can customize it and try to make the whole entire experience engaging, as opposed to like, you're doing chambers and like getting to Ulm, you're like, oh, I got this room, time to turn off my brain and save spot. Like, you can kind of challenge yourself like every step of the way, which I think is really good. And I personally, I think now I'm at 4 of my like close buddies that I've just got into RuneScape. Like, the past 2 or 3 months, and they're all kind of powering their accounts to like raid. And before it was like, oh yeah, get to this point, get this gear, whatever, and then I'll teach you guys chambers. But now like with tombs, it's like, yo, you guys are already here, you know? You guys have put in the work. I can show you tombs, we can have some fun, and maybe that'll like encourage you to build towards, you know, getting ready for chambers or like Theater of Blood or something where it's, you know, it's more incentive, right? To continue playing and to like get to like, you know, get to the ability to like comfortably do raids.
Yeah, it'd be one of the first group things you're able to do on your account.
Yeah, man, I really like that. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. The invocations themselves, I like them a lot. There's like a really good variety. Yeah, like you guys have mentioned, like the limited lives, the speed runs, you know, being able to tweak a certain mechanic for a boss. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's cool. And it is, yeah, I like that we have a raid that you could, you know, yeah, you could have like 4 friends who are all they might struggle with the boss fight themselves, but it's all about like learning the mechanics. Once you kind of get an idea what the mechanics are, it's not that hard. It's still tough if you don't have that much PVM experience, but it's doable.
It's more dynamic than chambers, but it's also like it's easier because the 0 invocations, like it gives you so many tries to just go again. So even like 4 inexperienced PVMers would be able to get through the raid, which they would be able to in chambers as well, but it would be painful.
Yeah, you can sit down in like tombs and just do no supply, like, you know, oh, don't use any of your brews or anything on this boss. Do it 3 or 4 times, stack up those honeys. You're like, okay,
honeys.
The brute force it.
Yeah, that's right. And the honeys come from, I believe it's when you die, right? You die, you get a little bit of these, what are they called? Honey, these like stackable food, right?
Honey sweets or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of help you out a little bit if you die. So one thing that I really love, I think is awesome, is that, so I mentioned when you first walk into the raid, the actual raid itself, you'll see 4 paths, these 4 doors that you kind of have to go unlock before you can open up the final door to the final boss. And you get to kind of choose what room you want to go in first. And there's a few elements that I really like. And I think it's gonna be really cool when people start getting a little bit better at it and they're trying to figure out what's the best way to do things. Because one, these invocations, as you mentioned, as we've mentioned, you know, really up the difficulty of things, but they'll make certain bosses harder than others. And you can use that to kind of figure out what path you want to take. Because once you complete 2 rooms, you get this, what do they call it? The helper. It's like the
spirit.
Yeah, this helping spirit, this like ghost who will then give you some supplies. And these can be like, they're better than like what we are bringing in. They're better versions of Sarah brews or combat potions or prayer potions. They'll let you choose of 3 different kits that will give you a bunch of these supplies. And so what this means is like you could up the difficulty and be like, you know what? We know that these 2 bosses are going to be harder than the other 2 because of the invocations we've chosen. Let's do the easier bosses first, and then we'll really take advantage of these supplies we get after we finish the 2. Tackle these other ones, the 2 harder ones. But
yeah, and like to build on that a little bit, I like if you have that kind of a plan and something goes wrong, you can always adjust it too. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like you're really going to be in a position where you're like, oh well, we're totally screwed. We've done, you know, like the first room and now we got to reset because, you know, we wasted too many supplies. Like you can always just adjust the plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be really it'll have a lot of long-term replayability, which is what this game really needs, because people love to do raids and PvP. Any content in general, we love to do it over and over again. But so yeah, there's 4 bosses that we've mentioned, these 4 paths, and each path, and this is what I love, before the boss itself, you have to complete this puzzle, or what they call in the wiki, the challenge room. But it's essentially just a puzzle of some sort. So the first path we'll talk about is the Path of Het, which is leads you to this boss called Akka, the Guardian of Het. And this is basically like kind of looks like a Roman soldier, sort of. Maybe a Roman soldier on steroids. It's this like warrior you have to face. And But the puzzle room before it, we'll talk about the puzzle room before we talk about the actual boss. It's this room where you have to, it kind of reminds me at least, of the Morning's Ends quest, where you have to redirect light using mirrors kind of around the room. And you have to do that in this room. You have these walls you can mine using a pickaxe. You can bust down these walls, and then you have to redirect the light around the room using the mirrors. And some mirrors are stationary, you can't move them. Other mirrors you can pick up and you can move around as you need to. And you gotta get this light to go and basically touch this statue of this shielded warrior. Now, I think it's a pretty cool puzzle. What are your guys' thoughts on, I don't know, a puzzle like this? I guess we can start with Magpies.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Crabs and Chambers, obviously.
Right, yeah. It's
because you're basically just maneuvering stuff in the room to get light to bounce off certain things and hit a target. And it's just like Crabs in the sense that like it's only a set rotation, I think, of different like layouts of walls and stuff that you have to solve. But I think it's fun. It definitely needs a little bit more thinking than Crabs. Hopefully it's not just a memorization of like, or just like mark these tiles on room light. But day one, it was really fun to try and figure out like where everything goes. And so I like the whole time and space concept that the boss has. And I think like it plays into the actual boss himself. So I like how the rooms kind of, the puzzles play into how the boss fight actually goes.
Yeah, it's really cool. Deagin, what are your thoughts when you kind of went into this room? Do you like these sort of puzzles? Do you think like, and what do you think about like the long-term replayability? As you know, Magpies mentioned, do you worry that it's going to be okay, mark these tiles and place them here every time?
Yeah, so I like the idea of the challenge puzzles. I wish some of the invocations could actually make them more difficult and add more things. Because it's totally one of those things where you come up with like a method and you just kind of turn your brain off. The mining light puzzle, that one specifically comes to mind, where you look at it, you're like, okay, place like this mirror here, here, and here, and get ready to click and mine it.
Yeah, what if there was an invocation that added like new patterns, and more mirrors, so you have to bounce?
Yeah.
Or like you took damage,
overall,
like you do in the desert because it's so hot, you take damage every couple seconds.
Yeah, so that would be smart.
Yeah. So I think for replayability, it'll turn into something where you just like as you're learning it, let's say like a year from now, I want to learn tombs. You'll like watch a YouTube video. They'll be like, import these tiles when you enter, and you import 200 tiles, and it's gonna have everything marked for you. But I love the idea, and for the most part, the puzzle rooms I think are pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Heartless, what were your thoughts? Like, do you have? I know you probably have just run it kind of recently.
I mean,
what were your thoughts when you first entered?
It released at 3 a.m. for me, so I did wake up at 3 a.m. and I was running with Deagin most of the day. Actually, me, Deagin, Raichu, and Wheeze, Dank, a couple other people were running like between 4 and 7s. I think was the scales we were doing. Man, I had a blast. I got double 6-hour log Dilz.
At 3 a.m.
Yeah, we started with entries. We did like 4 of them or so, and then we managed to get a normal done maybe around 8:30 in the morning, so like 5 hours after it had been released, which we celebrated hard, Deagin, when we got that one done. I think everyone actually died at the very end of the phase too. It was crazy. No, dude, it was so much fun, man. It was like 20 deather. Yeah, I'm just gonna stay here for months and keep grinding it. And solos seem really, really viable as well. You can easily do normals once you've got a little bit of practice. So yeah, and I quite like all of the rooms. The only room I'm not very fond of is Akka. Sorry, not Akka. He's great. The Baba, the giant
baboon one.
The baboon, because the wave puzzle before is really annoying and it takes a long time compared to the other puzzles.
I was just gonna ask, did you guys all start like on release? Because I was 2 hours late because I just had real life stuff going on. So when I first joined, I joined Heartless's group. They'd already done like an entry. So I didn't have that experience of like, let's figure it out. It was kind of like, oh, this is the basic idea. You know, this is what we figured out so far.
Here, let's go through all the rooms, and then we'll talk about our experiences when we first entered. Because I want to hear how everyone like first jumped in. Like Heartless, you waking up at 3 a.m. is hilarious.
Yeah, so did Raichu and I were duoing at 3 a.m. Yeah, so
right. I was talking to Raichu. He was already awake, but he was up all night.
Yeah. He stayed up all night. He took a heavy nap the night before. I got at least 5 hours of sleep before I woke up.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, but let's get to that in a moment. Let's talk about Akka, the guardian of Het. This I keep calling him like a Roman soldier. It looks like some weird like legionary sort of guy. Who wants to take the reins and give a quick at work they always say a quick high level explanation, a quick brief description of this fight? Who wants to dive in?
I can give it a shot. Basically, he is a like hybrid tribrid kind of fight where you use all 3 types of gear. He has 2 protection prayers active at any time, but more high level than that, he's basically, like you said, a giant Roman soldier. You fight him on what looks like a timepiece, like a giant clock almost.
Or a sundial or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, a sundial. And each quadrant is represented by different elements. So there's like fire, like a star, there's lightning, and there's death. And so he has 2 protection prayers active at any point. You're supposed to attack him with the one that he isn't praying against at that point. At some point in the fight, he'll kind of create these clones of himself, and you'll have to kill each one of them at like every 25% interval. You go and kill another one, and then he can only be attacked in whichever quadrant that has the shadow that you killed. So let's say that you kill the shadow in the northwest quadrant for his like first 25% or whatever, then you can only attack him by luring him over to that northwest quadrant. Otherwise, he's invincible. And then he also does this super cool mechanic where he basically plays this order of little symbols that light up on the very center of the sundial. So it shows you which quadrant is which with these little symbols. So there's a fire symbol, a lightning symbol, a death symbol, and the star. And then they light up in order. And then you have to stand in that quadrant before the rest of the room kind of takes a bunch of damage. So the quadrant with lightning has a bunch of lightning hit it. The quadrant with fire has a bunch of fire. And then death, I don't know, it's supposed to be a representation of death, I guess.
It gives you a DOT if you get hit by it.
Yeah, a damage of time for the fire, like a burn almost. And so you have to kind of remember the order in which the symbols light up and then start moving to the different quadrants as you see the damage light up for the other ones. It's kind of a weird way it's weird to explain like orally. You kind of need to see it visually, but it very much plays on the idea of time and him being on a sundial. You have like a set amount of time to kill him before like his clones create a special attack, and you have to kind of be in a set quadrant. Otherwise, all the clones that you haven't killed will like flush the room with more damage. So it's super cool. Definitely a very nice boss design, and a little bit less of like the pyramid ancient Egypt theme, but still keeping with that kind of like ancient history, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's quite cool, and it plays in the theme. I don't know how much this relates to the fight, but this is all centered around Tumikin, and Akka is supposed to be the avatar of health. So yeah. Deagin, what were your thoughts when you first jumped into this battle?
With Akka?
Yeah, with Akka.
So, hey, I'm gonna just pat myself on the back and brag for a second. I fucking called it, where there would be like a memory game puzzle in it. When me and Heartless talked about it on a previous episode, I was like, there's definitely gonna be like a little Simon Says memory puzzle. But it's one of my more favorite fights out of the whole raid. I think it's really fun. It's just got a lot of really fun mechanics, and it shows that like they can make a fight difficult but learnable, if that makes sense. Like you can actually understand, you can figure it out, you can have your own process or like trial and error to like figure out how to do like the fight in a certain way. It's really fun. I think they did a great job.
That's awesome. And Heartless, what about you? What were your thoughts? Anything to add on to, or even after you started learning the fight of Akka?
No, I think he's really cool. I like the memory game. And yeah, Romans do fit the theme because they were in Egypt when Cleopatra was alive.
Shout out to Cleopatra.
Yeah, true. Mark
huh?
Anthony.
Also Julius Caesar.
A little action.
Yeah.
Relationships with both of them.
Hell yeah. I mean,
Not at the same time, but you know what I mean. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I like the fight overall. It's one of the most well designed fights. It's very unique.
Yeah,
and a lot different than someone just got a fang in our clan. Same Iron Man who also got a ward on day one. What a guy!
damn.
easy game.
Dilz, what'd you think about it?
I thought it was cool. I had a lot of fun learning it, and our group was trying to figure out the fight. It was a lot of like, why can't we attack them? Oh my god, we can't attack them. What do we do? We're attacking everything else. Nothing's working, and then we start running out of food and panicking, running around, and then suddenly we see him. He changes color to let you know when, like, a shield kind of disappears when you can attack him because he's in that corner of the sundial. I'm like, oh shit, that's how you kill him. And same with the memory game. What I loved about it too is you would see it and you're like, oh, this is how we have to do it. And then of course, sometimes it happened and no one was paying attention. So you saw the last three, but because you didn't see the first one, you couldn't tell which one you missed. And then you take a whole shit ton of damage because you're like ahead of the cycle, you know.
Yep.
So, anyways, it's quite cool. I did like it as well. And then also the last phase, there's these like white orbs that just float around, and there is a lot, and it's very chaotic, and it feels like I'm gonna get hit by all of these, but also it's kind of like, I was going to say it's an illusion. It looks like it's going to be really hard to dodge them, but it turns out it's not as hard as it looks. But I love that feeling of, oh fuck, what is going on?
Have you seen like those videos on YouTube of like an intersection in like India or like some random country where there's really bad traffic and you see like civilians just walking through like 100 cars that are swerving around them, but no one's crashing? That's kind of what the last phase feels like to me, where you just like, you click on Akka because he's teleporting around in all the corners of the room, and you're like running at him. You hit him once, and he teleports, and you run, and you're just kind of closing your eyes, and you're just like trusting the game to like not kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's not like, I find if you are panicking and you're trying to dodge stuff, you're gonna mess up and dodge. But if you're just like confident in your pathing and adjust every once in a while, you're gonna be able to just blindly walk through that traffic safely.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I was actually going to ask you about that because I thought that was super cool. They make something look super chaotic and like, you know, and like whatever, but it's like one of the most fun parts of the fight, and it's sad that it's so short. But
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Anything to add? We can always return to this, but before we move on to the next path,
I will say I love the visual aesthetics when he turns everyone in the room either white or black. And if you're black, it's like as of right now, it's kind of like don't move. And then if you're white, it's like you don't want to be on the same line. You want to put yourself on diagonals typically, or like, you know, not exactly parallel with people. But I think like the character models, like just the coloring and how like your Inferno or like Fire Cape won't, you know, it'll stay the same color, and I don't know, you look kind of badass for a little bit.
That's cool.
But yeah.
The next path of this list is the path of Krondis, which is the crocodile named Zebek. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the challenge room or the puzzle room. So in this one, it's Heartless. I think you mentioned it. This is the Hollowed Sepulchre activity we all get to do. So the
little baby sepulchre action.
Yeah, exactly. So there's these 4 areas basically. So you have this plant in the middle, and what you have to do is you have to grab this like a water skin basically. You got to fill it up with water, and then you got to drop it off, and you basically have to charge this plant to like a certain number, like a certain amount of water for it to grow, and then you complete the room. But in order to get to the area to fill your water skin up with water, you need to run through a Hollowed Sepulchre like obstacle, you know. So you'll have these things shooting out, and you'll have these like, I don't know, it's almost like a line of like acid or just the green energy that you have to dodge. And I believe if you get hit, you'll lose a bit of your water from your water skin.
You lose 50%.
Okay,
yeah, you'll go from 100 to 50 to 25 to 0, I think is how it works.
Okay. So you do not want to get hit. And then, so there's 4 of these rooms. Then, of course, there's these little salamanders, or I guess crocodiles is best described as, that are trying to attack the plant in the middle, which will remove some of the water from it as well. So I was doing it with kind of bigger groups, and what we did was like 4 people. I was doing it with groups of 8. So 4 people were running, grabbing water, while 4 were killing the ads that were spawning. Seemed to work. Now, what do you guys think about this room, Heartless? If you want to start, what were your thoughts when you entered this room?
Yeah, I like this room. It's very much like the Sepulchre. You have to. Originally we thought maybe you have one guy protecting against the crocodiles, and then a couple other people run water. Day 1, a lot of people were just getting chunked out for their water, so it took quite a while to get through. But once you get the hang of it, you can like run through without getting damaged. So,
yeah,
I like it
cool.
overall. It's like a little tower defense mini game.
Yeah. Oh, I love tower defense games. Magpies, what were your thoughts on something like this? Because I believe you weren't playing when Hollowed Sepulchre came out. Have you done Hollowed Sepulchre itself?
Yeah, I was playing when it came out. I was there for.
Oh, okay. I
left shortly into 2021, so like around March, April is when I kind of dipped off. But I think this room, like, it's more of like a rush than anything else. Like you try to finish it in like a minute and a half, really. I don't like how it kind of feels rushed in its design, where every single corner, whichever like waterfall you go to get water from, it's the same traps, if that makes sense. So it could have been like much cooler in execution if you had one that was like a Hallowed Sepulchre. Like right now it's just spikes and acid pools, but like if you had another one where you had the time like swinging across like a vine or something, and there was a little bit more variety to it, rather than just like, it doesn't really matter which one you go to at the moment. But besides that, I think it's a cool challenge. It's nice in smaller groups when you have to try and like race against the clock to try and get as much water as possible before the first couple of crocodiles come out. And if you take too long, then you're kind of screwed over. So that's a little fun dynamic that I think bigger groups don't really have to deal with.
Yeah, I was running some solos yesterday, and you can just 3 water jugs and it's finished. So you can just zoom through it.
Yeah.
Okay. Deagin, now what are your thoughts? I know when we had spoken in person, I saw you doing Hollowed Sepulchre and you were quite frustrated by it. I think once you figured it out, I think you mentioned on one of the podcasts you and Heartless did that you enjoy it a little bit more once you learned it.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this activity within a raid itself?
I like it. It's kind of same gripe with Magpies. It's they just kind of copy pasted like 2 or whatever rotations like of the like little agility aspect, and like 1 or 2 of them are really easy to do where you just stand there and click, and then some of them are kind of like to figure out how to 1 click and get through without getting hurt is a little bit trickier. In general though, it's one of those rooms where like you go in with like 5-6 people and like everyone starts doing it, and one guy is like, I hate this room, I'm gonna just go AFK. And you're like, okay. Or like I'll have it where I misclick and I'll get hit like twice or God forbid like 3 times, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna sit here and blood barrage these crocodiles and heal up. Someone take my spot. Overall though, like I think it's pretty fun. I noticed, in solos it's so easy. You go take the easy layout and you just boom, you can get it done before like crocodiles even come out. And it's insanely fast, but yeah, it's fun.
I do like that they added something like this, and I think it's quite cool. But I something really that you can do to fix this gripe, but anytime it's like movement based in RuneScape, it's going to feel a little bit weird. There's so many times that I clicked. I wanted to see how much water I would lose, so I clicked, and I'm like, my character's looking like he's getting impaled by these spikes, but I'm not actually getting hit. And I'm like, oh.
I will say, the one actual like gripe about this room is that, especially if you're in a bigger team, or if you're getting hit, you can like actually run out of energy at one point if you're just like not doing a good job, because you don't.
Yeah, you gotta start bringing like staminas and shit.
Yeah, you only get like 20, I think, stamina when you get the water. And I kind of wish either they gave you like a 30-second stamina with that 20% or something, just to make it so it's not as painful. Because if you run out of run energy, and you're kind of like, oh well, this isn't fun. Granted,
you can pre-pot and then do that room first. Seems to be what I tend to do with groups, right?
Yeah, but if you're like a newer player or something, or like maybe you're an Iron Man that doesn't want to waste staminas. I don't like the answer to it being just pre-pot. They could do like something a little different, either just like give you full run energy, because when you're done the room, you go to 100% anyways. It's just a tiny little thing. Like as you get better at the room, it's a non-issue. But when you're learning it, it's like it can be kind of frustrating.
Right. It's nice to like think about these. That's one of the cool things about like raids day one is we're learning things as we go. And so our perspective is still like the exact same that someone who's going to join the game tomorrow and only get the tombs a year from now will experience. Like,
there's no hindsight, right? It's not like, oh, well, if you click on this tick and, there's zero hindsight as of right now. It's kind of like, this is everything face value, right?
Yeah, it's once you do complete the room, though, you get access to the next boss, which is Zebek, the Guardian of Krondis, the big old crocodile. Heartless, you mentioned this is one of your more favorite rooms. Did you want to give a quick run through, or what it is about the fight you like?
Yeah, so he either attacks with range or mage. You spray accordingly. But then he throws out these poison splats, kind of looks like sand on the ground. And he throws out these water jugs, and you have to roll the water jugs and attack them in order to clear the poison so that you can stand behind these rocks, because he has this sonic attack, and you need to be standing between 1 and 3 tiles behind these like defense rocks, basically. So you have to like work as a team to move the water jugs and then clear them. So on day one, there was quite a few wipes because of that. But yeah, it's really fun. Then you got the waves coming through, so it incorporates like some movement. I wish there was an invocation that made the waves, because there's 3 tiles that you can run through. I wish there was an invocation to make it 1 tile. I think that'd be super cool. Yeah, or add more waves throughout the whole fight.
Like have them come from both sides?
Or like continuous waves, stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or maybe 6 of them in a row. Something more interesting like that. I think there's a lot of room that they can improve the room, but I just find it's really fun. And it's quick. I like that it's really fast too.
Yeah, it's cool. That's always nice. Anything else? Any other thoughts, or like any other moments when you were doing this your first run that you wanted to share?
No, it's just good fun overall.
It's a pretty cool boss. Deagin, what were your thoughts in this room?
I liked it. Like I said, I went in and it wasn't like super blind. I had an idea of what to do already. But I liked, pushing the the little jugs towards the rocks you're gonna hide behind and all that. I think it's cool. It's a nice little mix of mechanics in a room. I think that's why it makes it so fun. It's not like switch to this gear and pray this and then walk here. Like there's actually like, oh, if we all position in these parts of the room, we can push the jugs on an angle or do this or that. Like there's a lot of like cool little things you can you have to keep an account when you're actually doing the room, and it makes it like way more engaging. And then the boss itself, if you have like a twisted bow or something, you get to see like huge experience drops. Like I saw like you're getting 800s and like 1,000 experience drops and stuff, and it's just like it's really satisfying. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really well done room, and these are the kinds of rooms I like because like I said, there's a variety of different mechanics. It's not just like puddle bad and prayer good. It's like, lots of things you got to do.
Yeah, it's the like high risk, high reward, like fast paced room of the raid, like where you deal crazy damage and it deals crazy damage to you. I think like those kinds of fights are more enjoyable for most people just because they're faster. It's more fun to know that you can hit crazy numbers. And so like you can shred him. And you don't really need a T-bow to shred him. Like he just has really low defense, and so it's like a kill or be killed scenario. And so the fight is definitely more enjoyable than like some of the slower paced ones, and not just this raid, but like throughout old school. But yeah,
very cool. Anything else you wanted to add about this room before we move on?
Nope. I don't think so.
No. Okay. All right. So yeah, that was Zebek. And then room number 3 out of 4, or path number 3 is Path of Epmekin, which is we'll start with the puzzle though, the challenge room. Personally, this might be one of my favorite of the puzzles, only because I really like this specific mechanic. But you walk into this room and you basically have this big old statue, and then you got these 4 pillars on each side of the room, and then you have 4 vents, 2 on each side of the room as well. And you have these monsters that spawn. And they basically are like, I don't know, smaller versions of Baba. You get all these minions that spawn. You have to kill them. But one person gets selected as like the sightseer. They get the sight, so they get to see when they get, basically there's these skulls that will just pop up either at the pillars or at the vents, and only one person is able to see them at a time. So when they pop up, that person needs to say, hey, repair the pillars, or you have these potions, or pour these potions in the vent. And if you repair the pillar before the skulls are up, you'll cause these like boulders to fall down and you'll take some damage. So you really have to rely on when this person tells you to repair them, and they all need to be repaired at the same time, and same with the vents as well. And you do this enough, and then the minions, the ads, stop spawning, and you just have to kill them. So that's the room there. The reason I really like it, I love when you have that type of coordination within a team where one person has a specific role. So I love it in Theater of Blood, in Soda Seg, where one person gets pulled into this maze and they get to see the path of the maze, and they have to tell the other team members what that path is, and they do that by walking the path. So I love that sort of mechanic, and that's why I really like this room itself. Magpies, what were your thoughts in this room when you first?
The puzzle itself is really cool. Like you said, like I love the idea of someone coordinating it. Like it's like the saying in the Land of the Blind, the one-eyed man is king. But yeah, basically just having someone, the only person who can see when shit goes wrong in the room and tells you what needs to be done, is cool. And I like how it juggles, because then it stops a lot of like, because otherwise like it'll just be one person who gets to tell everyone what to do, and everyone else is kind of just like playing follower, and it's like, well, when's my turn? When's the right that I get to be the leader, sightseer, or whatever. But yeah, it kind of switches around, which is nice, and it also adds another element of like oh, Deagin, what's the issue? Like it tells you in the chat that there is an issue, but it doesn't tell you what it is. So like you'll be like, what's the issue? And he'll be like, I don't know, it's not me anymore, it's Dilz. And then there's like another layer of confusion, which is nice. I think the room itself is very similar to like the Nilocus room, where you just have like a bunch of monsters coming at you at once. But I like that it's not just here's a melee, here's a major, here's a ranger. Like there's a little bit of variety. You have like a bunch of like corrupted baboons or whatever, or cursed baboons, or that just like draw venom all over the ground. And then you have like exploding baboons and like mage summoning baboons that's like summon thralls to come at you. So it's got a lot of more variety, I think, and it's really fun to coordinate. So it's almost like Nilocus plus, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely see the similarities. Heartless, what are your thoughts? Anything you wanted to add about this room and your experience when you first were running it, or even your experience now? After
I find it a little bit frustrating because it's because it's slow compared to the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes on for a little too long.
It goes on for a little bit too long, in my opinion. So that's not my favorite thing. And yeah, I just find it a little bit annoying. That's all. But then again, I also find Nilo Room a little bit annoying for the same reasons. Like it's the same every time. It's kind of slow. It's just annoying, and you have to get through it.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do to speed it up. You kind of just have to
exactly.
wait.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure there'll be things that come out in the future where we like no spawns and you can move around the room easier and or maybe like specific roles. But yeah, it's just not my favorite.
It seems like it's always the same order, the spawn location seems a little like it's different. I don't know if it's different every single time for every spawn or if it's a set number of rotations. But you always start with the Meleers, then you get the Rangers, then the Majors, and then I think the first set of like the special ones come out. But again, we're like in early stages, so I'm hoping it's a little bit more randomized in terms of spawns and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. Deagin, how about you? And you're someone who's played a lot of raids, so like this is kind of the mechanic of one person having the select role is kind of common in other raids. But what are your thoughts of this room and maybe that mechanic in RuneScape?
Yeah. Overall, at first I hated this room, but I guess I would say slowly, but it's been one day, so quickly I've grown to actually really enjoy the room. It's like it's Nilo's, but it's not just super brain dead, and you're like racing against like gotta kill these as fast as you can. You can kind of like there's a lot of like little strategies you can implement where you're like, oh, let me barrage these thralls that like the shaman summoning and all that. But I don't know, whoever's woke, I guess, the woke person in your group who can see, what's good. I like that mechanic, but maybe it's because it's RuneScape, but I kind of dislike mechanics that require you to be in voice chat. I mean, like yesterday I was raiding with someone who I've done many raids with them, and I'd never ever heard their voice. They would rarely come into a Discord and have their mic enabled. But at some point he had to like actually jump in and like talk with us, which I mean that's fun, be social and stuff. That's good. But when it comes to like what if there's a person that's not in a clan and doesn't have like, anyone to really play with, and like, do you really want to go to like the free for all world and join some random Discord and listen to some guy watching Family Guy in the background while his kids are crying and he's coughing? Like, coming from other MMOs, that was the worst experience where I'm doing PvP or like arenas and this guy goes, "Here's my Skype," and like you just hear like and then his wife's yelling at him to get off. Like, true story, wife's yelling at him to get off like the computer, and he's like, "Give me 30 minutes. All right, I'm doing that." And like I don't want to hear like I get really annoyed and distracted when I hear like background noise on other people's mics. So maybe I just hate forced voice chat. But in general, that idea of like pillars, repair the pillars, use the vent, gather up so we can cleanse each other of corruption. That layer to like a gauntlet wave, like a horde like style room, I do like. I think it's a good addition to make it like a little more spicy. I think Magpies called it Nilo's Plus, but it's like Plus Ultra type thing where it's like they've taken an idea and they've like actually built on it and made it better. It's like they've like what I've said in the past, like Winter Todd. They have an idea like Nilo's, it's just waves and it's kind of boring. But they've taken the idea and made it, for me at least, something I like. I don't mind actually doing, and I kind of look forward to it.
Yeah, it's got like a different vibe to Nilo's.
Yeah,
I feel like Nilo's it's more enclosed. Like the Nilocus room is so much tighter, and you're literally in a race against time.
Yeah,
where like the idea is it's this feeling of being overwhelmed by spider. Like I know exactly the kind of like phobia that they were trying to target with Nilocus, where it's like, how creepy would it be if we just had constant spiders coming from these webs in the sky, just constantly overwhelming you and like making you wipe if you don't kill them quite quickly enough. Like that's Theater of Blood. This one's a lot more chill, where it's like there's a family of monkeys that you got to kill and you can take your time. It's more spread out, but you also have these added mechanics on top of that. So it's like the fact that there's so many of them isn't the big takeaway, whereas Nilocus, it's just numbers. There's a ton of things that you need to kill like in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
you just massacre a family of monkeys.
I will say, just like the crocodile room, though, this room is so easy in solos. It is like, because you only have to repair one pillar or do one vent. You're not going to get corrupted because you that's not a thing. And like it's just like it's super brain dead solo. But overall, I think it's a good room. I like that they've built on the ideas. Hopefully, we can find like a way, or maybe there's plugins that will come in that will make it so you don't have to like get in voice chat. But yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe some barbarian assault You get a old horn that you can call it to
Yeah,
other people.
that's actually a really good idea. I would love that. I don't know how.
Yeah, Barb Assault horn would be perfect for this.
And you have someone following you. Call! Call!
You called the wrong thing, you bastard.
The dragon long, the dragon med. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's an interesting room. But of course, this leads to the boss, Heartless. You mentioned this earlier, but Baba, the guardian of Amascut, and this is the avatar of companionship. It doesn't say what the avatar Krondus or Zebek was, but anyways, whatever, doesn't matter. The fight of the baboon. Now, does anyone want to try to describe this?
Donkey Kong.
I can try. I'm gonna mess some things up because I'm looking at Kefri, the next boss, and I was like, man, our team just really brute forced it.
Yeah. I just want to explain Kefri. I'm excited to talk about that.
You like Kefri a lot.
Yeah.
So Baba's like relatively straightforward. It's this slanted rectangle room that you're in, and there's sort of 3 phases to it, and he has the exact same mechanics in each phase. So he drops rocks from the ceiling. If you're the tank, he'll drop a rock and it has like an AoE. And then there are these monkeys that come down from the side and they try to deal damage to the sarcophaguses, and you basically just want to kill them. They're quite weak. And that's basically the first phase. And then he has this giant special attack where he'll lob these 2 huge boulders and he's somewhere in the room. And then he'll throw this massive boulder at you. And if you're not standing next to the big boulder on the ground, you're going to take a 40. And it's a 40 every time in every scale. So you just need to go over to the rock. So those are the main mechanics. It's relatively straightforward. And then on the intervals in between the phases, he'll knock you to the back of the room and he'll roll these boulders down the hill. I think there are 5 of them. And one of them will be damaged. You just have to attack that and then run through the gap that it makes. And I think he rolls like 5 or 6 sets of these boulders at you before moving on to the next phase.
Reminds me of MXC. You guys ever watch that show?
Yeah, it's very funny.
You can skip the boulder phase, or you can rush and end it prematurely if you can reach Baba in time to melee him. If you melee him during the boulder rolling thing, you can stop it then and there.
Yeah, Baba's extremely tanky. So Scythe is not particularly good against it. Rapier is pretty solid. It seems like it's weak to stab. But this is obviously a room where the Fang is going to excel. So I feel like when everyone has Fangs and they're a more reasonable price, this will be a less painful room. But currently, Baba is extremely tanky, which can cause some frustration for sure.
So this is probably one of your least favorite.
I think personally, just in combination, he's not a lot of fun mechanics like Akka, Zebek, and then Kefri. There's all these new interesting mechanics. There's not a lot different to Baba. It's basically stand in the right place, don't get hit by the falling rocks, and then crush your way through the boulders. It just doesn't seem as pushed mechanically as the other ones do, and for me that's probably why I like it, combined with the fact that you have to go through the Nilo Plus waves before. But it's it's still fun. I'm just saying, out of the 4, it's my least favorite.
Yeah, you gotta have a least favorite. Deagin, what are your thoughts about this room?
Yeah, pretty similar. I don't absolutely hate the boss, but because it's day 1 and we don't have all the strats, we're not crumbling undead, to one-shot him like someone might discover one day. He can be really frustrating, and we've had strats where we pop the potion to so your specs take half a amount, so you can do a 25% Warhammer spec, and someone just hits them 4 times, and it's fuck it,
and misses all of them.
Yeah. I will say this is this is a room that I had a little notepad going for. And just little ideas. I'm like, okay, what kind of strats can I come up with to make these rooms better? And this is one of the 2 rooms that this thing I kind of thought of, it makes the fight a lot more easier to deal with. And the big mechanic that I think can really screw everyone over is when the rocks fall, and then the big rocks, and he throws those little ranged rocks at everyone. You have to go and divide up and tank them. If if one person messes up the mechanic, either they themselves or someone else is getting screwed over the next time that mechanic happens. If the phase doesn't change and it's Donkey Kong time and you're destroying the rolling balls. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, let me just communicate with everyone. We gotta organize and be like, hey, if there is a rock more north or south to each other, these people are gonna go south. If it's more east or west and they're on the same north and south line, these people will go west, these people will go east. Because so what happens? Let's say you have 4 people, and 3 of them get to the rocks, and one person doesn't make it in time. One rock gets completely destroyed, and one's at half health. So Baba will summon just one rock, and now only 3 people can have the rock absorb their hits, and that's what I mean when someone else is getting screwed over or punished for your mistake. So if I mess it up, I'll usually just not say anything, and I'll just stay away. I'll take another 40. It's my fault.
The thing is, taking a 40 is not even that big of a deal, because it's really not that much health.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it's not like a super punishing mechanic if you mess it up. It might hurt for the next round, but also most people you just stay high health if you're not tanking, and then taking a 40 is not huge. So I can see situations where you're wanting to speed run, you probably will just ignore the boulders and just keep hitting them.
Yeah, I mean, it's all relative, right? 40 health is nothing unless you have 41 health or 39.
Sure.
It can make or break.
That's deep.
Yeah, dude, that's hashtag deep. But yeah, it just depends on the situation. But having to it's kind of like Soda Sag, right? Before you enter, it's 1, 2 southeast, 2, 3 southwest. People will kind of call things. I'm hoping that someone will be they walk in, they say any, the other person says SW, and you guys kind of just from there know what's going on and how everyone's going to position. The rolling rocks, I hate movement-based stuff like that because I'll try to do something and I'll fuck up. I think Heartless, you had the big brain revelation and told me to change the left click of the rocks that you don't want to attack to walk here, and you won't accidentally attack them and misclick, but the damage one will always stay this it's very consistent, and you can kind of pretend those rocks, you can't click on them, right?
Yeah, menu entry swapper.
Yeah, making that change on Runelight made that part a little more bearable, but
right. But I really don't like the falling boulder mechanic for 2 reasons. One, movement in this game is really janky. It never works out. Every time, how many times have you clicked something and been I didn't want to walk that way, I didn't want to go there. So it doesn't really work in a game like Old School. And even then, talking about punishing mechanics, this is a very unfair mechanic if you mess up once. And even if you don't mess up, but let's say the rest of your team are super brewed down from the falling rock mechanic from the previous phase, and you go to do this and people are too brewed down to actually DPS the boulders in time. This happened to us in the raid we just ran, where Heartless got stuck in this never-ending loop of boulders constantly hitting him until he died at the bottom.
Wow.
There's no way to really fix that except just brew and hope your team can get lucky with no boulders
in the space where you are, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it's unfair to say that movement isn't good in this game, though, because Hallowed Sepulchre is an amazing piece of content surrounded based on
true, but I can turn
movement.
around and say, how many times have we had the same movement mechanics just based on Hallowed Sepulchre? How many times has Hallowed Sepulchre been transported into other?
I'm just saying there's only so many things you can do with movement.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
It's limited. It's a 20-year-old game, so we're doing what we can.
Yeah, but
but you're right. This room of all of them has the least innovation. And there's room to add stuff. Also, oh my god, I was doing one the other day, and I turned on the invocation where if you get knocked back, you insta die if you're in the middle.
Die. Yeah,
it's extremely annoying because I was standing next to the rock, which was in the middle of the room, so I didn't tank the 40. But I dealt enough damage to proc the rolling boulder phase, and I got knocked back right one tile where I should have been off, and I got insta killed. And I rage quit. I went to sleep.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's some cool stuff. I totally get Magpies what you're saying. Where anytime you have these movement based things, it can be frustrating. I know, especially when I was first doing it, Runelight was. All the plugins were down because I had to be updated. So True Tile was off. There's a lot of things you're going back to the Hallowed Sepulchre room where, dodging these obstacles, there's a lot of times where I'm like, why am I not getting hit by anything? And it's like, oh yeah, because True Tile's off. I don't really know where my character is. I can see where it is, but if you don't know, your character isn't technically there.
Everything's an illusion.
Yeah, totally. Magpie, anything else you wanted to add?
There's
or anyone else want to add anything?
one little thing. The sleeper mechanic that is I find really annoying is the little baboons that Baba will spawn, and they'll like attack you, and they'll attack these sarcophaguses that are attached to the wall. And if they destroy them, then like in Inferno when you get Zuck, because this happens to me all the time when I get them down to half health, and all those healers spawn and they shoot those like little like missiles everywhere.
The sparks.
Yeah, the sparks. That happens in like certain sections of the room. So if you guys aren't on top of the monkeys, you'll just be dealing with like another mechanic. And I had it, might have been today actually, but where I got stacked out for like 35 damage because 2 of them landed on me while I'm trying to hide from Baba's ranged attack on a rock, and it was just next to a broken sarcophagus. So there's little things that like those little mechanics where you don't realize how problematic they can be if you don't deal with them properly until you get stacked out and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I do like
that a lot.
Yeah, it's not a complaint. Like I really think that's a cool idea.
Especially because it's like, I love those like sleeper killers, like poison pill mechanics, which is like, it seems really insignificant in the moment where it's like, oh, we've got these like, when we first did it, I was like, oh, we've got these monkeys, like we should probably kill them. And we waited to see what they did. And they knocked the sarcophagus over, and we're like, okay, we'll just stay in the middle of the room. Okay, great. But both the big mechanics that this boss has need you to be on the sides of the room at different points, right? So what if you get like rolling boulders and the only boulder that you can destroy is off to the side of the room where you've been neglecting to like protect the sarcophagi? Now all of a sudden you're screwed because you're trying to DPS the boulders and taking 30s from the sparks.
Yeah. It's like if you guys ever play chess, there's a little like a strategy type thing. It's called a poison pawn, where you place a pawn in an area where if they capture it with another pawn, like they can get totally screwed over. It's kind of what it feels like. Yeah, a little bit of a thing there. But yeah, Dilz, what would you think overall though? Like for Baba and all that? Like how was your experience? Because you had a very different experience than mine, right? You're running, you said 8-man teams and stuff, right? Yeah, how was that?
It was cool. I guess it's. I thought the boulder part was cool, and trying to figure out, when you have 8 people, it's really fun when everyone's trying like over communicating. You can see what boulder needs to be damaged. But left boulder. Like, it's the east one. Yeah, exactly. And it's a lot of fun, especially when you're like outer left, center left, and then we're like, okay, this isn't working. Let's name them 1 through 5. And then of course there is he throws these boulders on the ground, which like impairs movement. You can't walk on that tile. And it was fun thinking we discovered the mechanic to beat it. Maybe it is. Maybe we'll find out in a couple of weeks this is the way to do it. But we had whoever Baba was aggroed onto, that person ran circles around the boulder. It just caused them to like run in circles while everyone else attacked them.
That actually though, and I think Jagex wants to patch that. People were finding ways to safe spot Baba by doing stuff that's very similar to that. And those boulders, they provide like a shield from the falling rock that does the little AoE thing. So it's not a bad idea to bring Baba to like boulders and stuff like that. I mean, as long as you're not screwing over your other team, making them run to Africa and back to not die to the falling rock. But yeah, it's not like it's not. It's definitely something that Jagex is like, oh, people are finding ways to safe spot Baba by running them in circles. Like, yeah, that's really funny though.
And the boulder thing is a lot of fun, but I think it's one of those day one or hey, we're all learning sort of fun, because you get hit with a boulder. And that sucks, but we all just kind of laughed about it, and we're like, "Oh, that's funny, you got hit." But I can definitely see where, like, down the road, when you're wanting to run these efficiently, you get hit by a boulder, and you're like, "Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me?"
I don't want to brew down this little bit bullshit. Of leg.
Something like it can be frustrating down the road when everyone's taking it a little bit more seriously. But that was pretty cool overall. But of course, this brings us to the final room, the Path of Scabara. Is it Scabara?
Scabarus? I don't know. I just call them the scabies,
whatever.
just to be a little gross.
Kefri, this is the dung beetle, which is one of my favorites aesthetically. Like, I think it looks the coolest. They all look really cool though, so can't go wrong with any favorite. But of course, the puzzle room leading up is also quite cool. It's what, 6 puzzles you have to complete?
Technically 5, but yeah, there's 6 little.
Yeah, right. So you have one puzzle, which is you hit a button and you'll have like 9 tiles that are colored, and they'll light up in a certain order, and then you need to kind of like bop it.
Yeah, like Simon Says type thing. Yeah,
exactly. You need to go and run all on those to complete it, and then you unlock it. And then you have the next room, the next puzzle. I'm drawing.
Do you want me to go over them?
The next puzzle?
This is by far my favorite puzzle room.
Yeah.
So you got the Simon Says room. You have like a hieroglyphics math equation where there's 9 symbols and they all have a value of 1 to 9, and you like inspect a tablet and it's like 35. So someone has to do okay, let's do 5 fish hooks, and then we can do like a minus sign or whatever, and you have to add up these numbers to get whatever value. That room that part is kind of annoying because it's just, who has this memorized? No one? Okay, let's pull up the wiki or take a screenshot and go back so we have a reference. You have one where there's 3 pillars, or there's 6 pillars, 3 on each side, and it's you got to hit them in a certain order, but you're kind of just guessing, right? So you'll hit the northeast one, and then if it's the right one, it'll light up white, and if it's wrong, then the rocks will start falling. And if you're quick enough, you can check 3 during one of the rocks falling, like the during that little segment, and but you're just trying to find the order, and if you get it wrong, it resets, so you just have to memorize what the pattern is, and it changes every time. Then you have it's called a switch puzzle, where it's it's a 3x3 but missing the middle, so there's only 8 pieces, and anytime you click one of the switches, it'll change, either it'll light up or it'll the light will go away, and the 2 lights, or the 2 switches that are next to it, will also flip, and you have to get them all lit up. You can
so if they're on, they'll go off. If they're off, they'll go on.
Yeah, you can right click flip them and you'll take 20 damage and you'll only flip that one to be on. But
oh really?
Yeah, so that puzzle is absolutely my favorite because that's a common puzzle you have to do in PoE. And so whenever I'm whatever team I'm with, I'm hoping to God it's the first room, and I'm I go to that and I'm let me do this. I just love doing it. It feels so good to get the solve. If you don't need to flip it manually, you can just oh, here, done.
You're actually really good at those.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a PoE mechanic, so it kind of tracks, but you're pretty damn good at those.
Yeah, thank you.
It's nice because people have different things they really enjoy. I was running with a couple people yesterday who really like doing have we done the pairs yet? The matching sets?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The one room where it's the last room, but on either side, there's you have to match 2 of the same symbols, but it'll be each symbol, there's 2 sets of symbols and they're on either side. So you have to coordinate with people to flip. Let's say there's a fish hook. You got to flip yours and they have to find it and flip it. And it's kind of like those little memory puzzle games where you have the cards and you're flipping them over, matching them. Yeah.
But it's cool because I've noticed every single team I've been with, even with completely different people gravitate towards a specific puzzle that they really like doing. And it's cool to see how different people, Deagin, for example, you actually it takes me a long time to get through those. You call them switch puzzles. I think they're also in Clue Scrolls. I think it's the light box, something similar to that. But
something similar.
It's cool to see how people gravitate towards different mental games. That was something I never expected to come out of this raid, but
yeah, that's what I found cool too. Because I hate doing the add them up hieroglyphics, but like I know you like doing it, and it's like, oh, okay, 9 4 6 9 3. Okay, we're done. And I'm just like, I would sit there on like the wiki, like, okay, so which one is 5 again? Okay, and I need 2 of those, and like that would take me so long. But yeah, everyone will have like a puzzle that they'll just kind of, they just enjoy doing it, and it's fun to see people like if someone's doing the Simon Says and they mess up, there is someone who enjoys it and be like, let me do it. I got it. Get out of the way here. Like let me solve this one. And it's super fun, and it encourages people to like be confident and want to like interact in like a team environment where it's like you take this one, I take this one, we do this. Oh, you have nothing to do? Well, kill little bugs that spawn. You'll get to your puzzle and you'll do that, and we'll all have fun.
Yeah. Everyone gets.
And then sometimes you got 2 people who want to do like the switch puzzle, and you're constantly all just like spamming different switches.
Or that happens with the flip puzzle. There'll be 2 people that want to do it
right at the end.
Yeah, and it's like, because you can only have one flipped at a time, right? You can't have them all flipped. Like, so it's like, oh, I got the equal sign. And then it's like, hey, do you got the equal sign over there? And as they go to flip it, someone comes to your side and like flips and has like the glove. And you're like, you son of a bitch. Okay, dude, stop. I'll give you the next 3. Let me do the first 3. Like, yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm. It's quite cool. And there's like, of course, one thing to mention that there's 2 paths. You kind of walk into the room. There's 2 hallways that will have these puzzles assorted between the 2. And after each of the puzzles on each side, there's a door. And when you finish the puzzle, it opens the door on the other side. So you can have people waiting for you to finish the puzzle. And then, of course, there are these like ways to crawl through a little hole to get to the other side of the hallway. If no one can do the switch puzzle and you're the only one who can do it, and you're on the other side of the hallway, you can get over somehow. But it's cool.
Yeah, the biggest flex is doing your puzzle, then going to the other side, and because your puzzle opens up their gateway, then you do that puzzle, and then you're just sitting there waiting for them to do it, and you're like, hell yeah, I'm doing my part.
Yeah, that's sweet. Deagin, anything you want to add on about like your thoughts, your experience, what you liked, didn't like? Anything really about this room?
No, I love it. I love everything about it. Minus, I don't absolutely love the little math thing, but it's once you memorize the images, it's going to be, a lot more enjoyable, right?
I like the math thing, to be fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have like the best memory. So
just wait until there's a room light plugin that will highlight the numbers over top of it.
Yeah, it just replaces the symbols with numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'll love it.
Heartless, what are your thoughts of this room?
I like it overall too. I love that you have to do every puzzle. It's fun.
Do you have a puzzle that you tend to gravitate towards?
No, not really. I think they're all enjoyable.
Dude,
the last one is a little bit annoying, but I mean, it is cool. It's a memory game. So,
Dilz, do you have a favorite?
No. I think I like the Switches one too, only because that one is like, I'm not great at them, but they're very satisfying when you do it. And you're like, oh my god, we got it. And you think you're getting close to it. That one is quite satisfying. I would say like the Simon Says one could be fun, but going back to like our movement in this game, there's a few times that it get frustrating because you're like, no, I didn't want to walk on that tile. I wanted to walk on these. Because you would accidentally walk on the wrong tile, and
the one thing I would maybe change is not being able to reset the puzzle while you're in the middle of it. I've had it where I'm doing it and someone just instinctively comes in the room and resets it as I'm going to like the last tile, and then then it does a whole new, and you're like, okay, let's just redo this. Okay, that was very hard for me because I can't remember this shit, and I have to like play little memory tricks where I'm pinging each tile as they go off to like help myself remember like the order. Mm-hmm. But that's the only thing I'd maybe change is have like a timer, or if someone's currently solving it, to like make it so you just can't reset it on them, because that is like let's do a free for all and grief someone. We're just gonna sit there and keep resetting it. Now no one can go, right?
Yeah, true. And one more thing to add as well is there are these ads that spawn. So if you're taking too long, you're gonna start getting hit, taking damage unless someone's on ad duty. Magpies, what are your thoughts of this room?
Yeah, I think I kind of went back and forth with Deagin about what we liked. And the
math puzzle was your favorite.
Yeah, I like doing the math thing. It's going to be really easy in a couple days when Room Light puts exactly like what you need to step on. I'm guaranteeing there's going to be a Runelite plugin that just tells you step on one of these symbols, two of these symbols, and one of these symbols.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and we might talk about it a little bit more. But like, my biggest dread is when a Runelite plugins come out and it auto solves most of these puzzle rooms, like the mirror room with was it Het, the Het path, and of course these riddles as well. Like, once you can turn your brain off and Runelite's telling you what to do. I'm kind of dreading that moment because it is so much fun to have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Which is what makes these day
I'm
one.
hoping that with Jagex, like taking the integration of Runelite more closely to the actual company, to the point where it's like advertised on its website and stuff, and like having more of an open line of communication with the developers, they would probably have foreseen this, and maybe that's why they were on the front foot and like reined them in a little bit to be like, Raids is coming out, like this new raid is coming out. This is with the plugins you absolutely can't approve.
Yeah, that's what I'm really hoping, because like as much as I'm kind of complaining about having to memorize the symbols, if someone really enjoys that room and you have a solve, they'll never be able to enjoy that room again, right? Because like there's no challenge, there's no fun. Same with the Switch thing. I love that, but if I go in and it's highlighting where to go, like then like what's the point of me enjoying that? Because like I'm not actually engaging with the content, right? And
yeah, and people might say just turn them off, but someone in your party is gonna have them on,
right.
and I just like, yo, let me do it.
It's like, why make it harder just to make it harder, right? Like you're never gonna turn off the puzzle solver in a clue scroll because you want to sit there for 20 minutes and figure it out. Like it's like if it's there and it's gonna save you time, like people are just gonna do it, especially when you're on kill count like 250, 300, when you get into the thousands, if you're like going super hard in like a couple years from now.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're looking at speed runs and you're trying to do personal best, and there's a grandmaster time, and it's like, well, everyone else who got this time just turned the plugin on, so you got to do it now, Deagin, or else you're literally at a disadvantage to where the times that they've been posted in the game reflect this plugin.
I will say it's nice, like in Chambers, we're with the crab puzzle. They don't have a plugin that just auto solves it for you to like stun here, bring them here, and do this. It's more of like,
that's true.
You go in with an experienced player and they say mark these tiles, and like that's just a better experience, because you're like, one, you're learning something and that you can also like pass on to other people, but you still have to kind of engage with the content. And like with the Het puzzle with the mirrors, it's going to be the same thing, right? Like sure, at some point we're all going to have the tiles marked, but it's not like you click a button and you enable it and it does it for you. Like you gotta like have someone be willing to teach it to you, and that will make like the learning experience and like getting good at it and being able to bring your friends, and like it adds to that experience too. So yeah,
totally. Heartless, anything you want to add before we move on to Kefri?
No, I think the boys covered it there.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, Kefri, the dung beetle, which is my favorite looking of the bosses. Digging, and I think it's you mentioned earlier is your favorite.
I think this room became like my favorite boss just because of like I mentioned it before, but having to like come up with the strategies and like what can we do to like make this room a lot better. That's been really fun, and being able to implement that stuff and seeing how the boss fights kind of change is really enjoyable. So the way Kefri works, it's like this dung beetle that sits in the middle, and there's multiple stages where it has like a shield that you have to like whittle down, and when you do that, you'll engage like into another phase where she'll summon like little scarab swarms that you'll have to kill, and if you don't kill them in time, they'll get to the dung beetle and they'll heal its shield up. And then she can also summon like little adds that you kind of need to kill. There's like a melee guy, there's a ranger, and there's a major. And the mage one specifically is really punishing if you don't kill it in time. It'll like do like 30s to everyone pretty much in the room if you don't kill it fast enough. She's got this other mechanic where she'll spawn these like eggs throughout the room, and you got to destroy them. If you don't, these things called agile like scarabs or something will spawn, and they'll do like little bits of damage to you, but it'll also heal Kefri a tiny amount. So if there's one or two, it's not a big deal, but if it's something that you ignore, it'll make the fight a lot more annoying. Killing the beetles after they spawn is they're pretty weak, but they run away from you actively, so you kind of like, we'll have to chase it down if you're deciding to kill it. Her basic attack, Kefri's basic attack, it's that Vorkath fireball that, when he shoots it up in the air and it comes down at you. it's that, but it divides into like a bunch of little fireballs and it targets every player in the room. There's an invocation to actually turn it from like, just attacking you to attacks like a 3x3 around you. So you can make that mechanic a lot more engaging. And I'd say like the big mechanic that can really just kill a run if you mess up is like, I don't know what to call them, like the line, like the dung lines, where she'll throw like a line of like poo or something of dirt at you, and it'll knock you into the wall, and it will like, she'll like slowly divide the room up like that over time by targeting random players and just dropping this line that you can't pass, and you can kind of be entrapped in there. And I guess that's like the main mechanic that like, if you can deal with that, you can kind of, easily kill Kefri, I think, at least in my opinion. But yeah, this room's been like easily been my favorite just because of coming up with the strategies to deal with that line of dung that she flings at you has been super fun. And then watching it like, okay, if we do this, this, and this, and then watch it play out the way I'm kind of imagining it, and just seeing how it like makes the fight a lot more manageable. Because you can get into a situation where like you have 5 people and 2 people are stuck and like the tiniest like pie slice of the map, right? They can only see like 10% of the room, and everyone else is free. And then like, they're kind of just stuck in this like little line, right? But yeah, it's been a good time. What are you guys' thoughts on this room?
Heartless, you wanna jump in first?
Sure. Yeah, I enjoy this room. I think it's got unique mechanics that we haven't really seen before, especially with like the dung and separating the room like that. And it was a lot of fun to figure out. There were some like frame rate issues on day 1, but they've been solved. So yeah, I overall really like it.
That's great. And Magpies, what are your thoughts?
I like this room. It's like a no damage room if you do it right, supposedly, which I agree with. Like, it feels like every one of the 4 mini bosses or demi bosses or whatever each have like their own niche to fill, and this is definitely like that. If you do it right, you won't take any damage, kind of like Zarpus. But it's a lot of shit for me to take in, literally. Sometimes I agree with Heartless, like it's too much in the way of frame rate processing, where I think it's just a day 1 thing and RuneLite needed to update, but sometimes I would get graphical glitches, little stutters, and like frame rate drops in this room and in Het specifically. In Het, my RuneLite crashed twice in that room until I like just had to stop raiding and just like tell people, wait up, I need to change my settings just going into this room, and then change them back off of flow detail and stuff. But in this room in particular, I like the kind of split up in the split the room mechanic that you guys were talking about. I also like this trade-off. I love when there are like trade-off mechanics you have to think about. And in this one part of the fight, you have 3 things going on. You have the arcane scarab that's like charging up power. It's going to do 70 damage to you and everyone else in the room if you don't kill it fast enough. And it's also flying around. So because the room's segmented and you can't get across to the other side, you need to coordinate, like start killing the thing when it gets to your side, because we can't reach it from here with our T-bows. And then the other thing is like, you've got this little soldier that's constantly attacking you, and he's actually, I think you need to kill him to start the next phase, but I'm not sure. And then you also have these swarms that are obviously powering Kefri back up. And so you kind of need to trade off, like, how long can we put off killing this arcane scarab to actually deal with the soldier first, or to deal with the swarms that are healing her. So it's really nice to kind of like have that in the moment rush. I like those mechanics a lot because it's very variable, and it varies every time you do the room because of different circumstances, different amount of supplies, different ways the room can be broken up. So I really like that part.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's overall a fun fight. Every fight is so different, and they've all been a lot of fun just to kind of learn and dive into. So that makes for a positive day 1 rating experience. But of course, this leads us to the final boss. Yeah, which is I guess they call it the Wardens. Who wants to kind of give a quick run through? And you can make it quite
high level. to use your
high
corporate
level.
speak. I could give it a shot. It's similar to Verzik and Ulm in the sense that there are different phases. It's more like Verzik in the sense that each phase is different. And so in P1, you kind of have to power up this obelisk, power up or power off, I don't know. But you basically attack it while it's kind of flowing energy through to the two wardens. And if you can, like, if you don't manage to kill it in time, they'll start using these attacks. And so one of them creates these pyramids that shine light into different parts of the room. And if you're caught underneath the pyramids, you'll take a lot of damage. There's also like two different sets of balls that are thrown at you. That sounded a little weird. There's also two sets of like orbs that are thrown at you. One is a huge ball that follows you around. You have to death dot with everyone. And another one is like a series of small orbs that you have to stand far away from other people. So once you clear that part of the fight, you charge up the obelisk. One of the wardens, I can't remember whether it's Tumakin or Epmakin or whatever, comes down from their little throne, and you have to start kiting them around this huge chamber, attacking it with either mage or range, because it's got the same like protect from 2 attack styles that Akka has. And so you kite him around, you're trying to dodge these little lightning spots on the ground the same way that you dodge lightning in Ulm. And when he has his little defense shield disabled, he spits out a little core that you have to charge up by attacking. And usually dump your specs. You try to use some of the raised potions to like buff up your stats and spec as many times as possible. You do that a couple times, and that's phase 2. Once you kill that boss by getting the core's HP down to 0, the third phase starts, and basically it's the other boss comes alive, and now you have to you're segmented into just one half of the room, and you have to dodge every time she deals damage to one side of the room. So it's basically like running the head in Ulm. It's almost exactly like that. She'll deal damage to the right side of the room first, then the left side, and then she'll deal damage to both sides except for the middle. And while you're doing that, you're either T-bowing her, meleeing her, maging her, whatever really you prefer. But after that, she spits out these little skulls that you have to attack. And you kind of do that a couple times. And what's really cool about this boss is that after you get her down to like half health, she starts to resurrect some of the bosses that you've killed. Depending on how you've structured your paths, I think she summons the first boss and the 4th boss. But I could be wrong about that. So far, I'm getting a lot of Zebak and a lot of Baba. And so they'll start to do their own attacks. So Zebak will do his mage in range, and then Baba will throw her rocks at you on the ground that you have to dodge. So you're trying to dodge those while doing this little Ulm style running the head thing. And then finally you get her down to really low health, and she'll have like an enraged phase almost, or like a desperation phase, where it's kind of similar to Fasani's Nightmare, where everything basically all hell breaks loose, and like tiles start flying, the floor starts to explode underneath you, and you start to have less and less room as the rest of the floor starts to crumble. And you basically have to kill her as fast as possible while pretty much everything in the room is just being barraged with these missiles, and you've got the orbs from your previous bosses coming through, and she's trying to deal damage to you, and basically it's a DPS check. So I think that's the fastest high-level overview I could give.
Yeah, that's all. What are your when you so this boss was kind of a secret. You know, they've teased the other 4 bosses. They showed you what they looked like, and they showed the rooms. But this boss, the final boss, was really kept behind the scenes. Like, we didn't even know what it looked like, or anything like that. What were your thoughts when you first entered? And the main reason I ask is because I've seen some mixed opinions on the way this boss actually looks.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
So I had a couple gripes about this raid. I liked it overall. The raid is great, but I think this is a very, very weak point in the raid. First of all, I think, like you said, like people walk in the room, they notice. I think it's really out of place for old school. It feels really out of place. It feels almost like a techno, like cyberpunk almost fight, where it's just a bunch of flashing lights. It's like this obelisk is throwing stuff at you. It feels like a very spacey thing. I think you actually are in space in the fight, or at least like at the final part of the Desperation, you can see like different planets, or like you at least see that you're in orbit somewhere. But it just feels really out of place for old school. And I think it's just the art style. Like they could have put the same mechanics and just made it like more magical themed or more desert themed. So I really don't like how kind of futuristic it looks in that way. And also I think like it doesn't really, the level of detail on the bosses and stuff just kind of looks out of place for old school, which is traditionally had like not necessarily simple looking sprites,
But like low polygon
sometimes in the
type
past.
thing.
Kind of, yeah, but it's
less
like even
colors,
like
too. They're really vibrant and like lots going on with their designs.
yeah, but even like in terms of the color scheme, right? Like I feel like every raid was defined with its own color scheme. Like Chambers, just you got these bright green crystals. It's a lot of bright green, bright blue, great little like crystal aesthetic. And then you had Theater of Blood, which is like gorgeous. It's red. It's obviously all blood, and you've got these hints of purple throughout the fight. Whether it's like the Nilokas that come out or Verzik's like design, but it's very much like, okay, Theater of Blood, you know it's going to be red. Almost to a gimmick, right? But I feel like in this raid, everything looks super cool and looks like you're in a desert. And then the chamber where you're like kind of preparing for each path, like the first room that you go into in the raid is kind of like I figured it was like an oasis in the desert. Like metaphorically, that's what I felt like it was inspired from. But then you go into this boss fight and I'm expecting like sand, and I'm expecting these two cool like ancient pharaohs to come out. And yeah, they look like mummies, but it's a lot of red. It feels like it's the design straight out of Theater of Blood. And I think maybe what happened was they actually were so behind on schedule, they just rushed the design of these bosses because they look really out of place compared to the other bosses. Like Zebak, for example, is a perfect example of like what an old school boss looks like versus the Wardens, which I think is like a really RS3 looking kind of gimmicky art style, if that makes sense.
The room is also a little bit big, the first room. Like it kind of feels large and empty almost.
Yeah.
Because there's so much space to run around. I've never even been to the far side, like so much room on the bottom side to just run around.
Right.
So yeah, that I can agree with you. I really like the actual fights. I think they're really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, visually definitely was a bit underwhelmed by them overall. Compared to like you said, the rest of the raid.
Interesting. Deagin, what are your thoughts? Like initial impressions when you walked
Initial
in?
impressions, like I kind of agree. Where like I like the idea and the aesthetic of a desert theme, but it was very like there's like there wasn't a consistent concept of like this is what we're gonna have the desert be like. It's not like I'm asking for sand dunes and pyramids in every room, but every room you went into was like a completely different aspect on like what you could have done, So like you go into Kefri, right? You go into the scarabs, and it's like very hieroglyphic. It's very ancient pyramid-y looking. That's the whole vibe. You go to you go to the crocodile Zebek, and there's like that Oasis-esque theme, but not really, because there's like poison type thingies everywhere. It's like some weird Oasis thing. And then you have like that Roman look with like it just changes in every room. And when they could have just had one more of a consistent theme, it's like this is going to be a bit of a stretch. But let's say you got there's three women, right? And you got the first woman. Her name is Zarek, and she's very into crystals, and she's very spiritual, and she's got her color scheme. You're like, okay.
Ask you what your horoscope is?
Yeah, and she's asking me what astrological sign, and she rolls and goes, Deagin, oh, you're such a Virgo, right? That's the first one. And then you got the big booty, the big beautiful goth girl, right? You got your goth chick, and you're like, oh hell yeah. And then you got Amascut, and it's like, what's your vibe? Like you don't really know there's so many different things going on aesthetically that it doesn't feel as cohesive. It's like if you've been to like a college or a university that's really old and they've added multiple buildings to it, or any like really big building, you look at the building as a whole and you can tell it's like a committee, like different committees made each parts of the building. And it feels like they had 4 or 5 different art teams and they all spent time on a room and they didn't really talk to each other. And then they kind of just put it all together. It's kind of like the saying of if you get a committee together to make a horse, they'll make a camel or whatever.
Yeah, camel's a horse by committee.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of fitting because camels and deserts, but yeah.
I actually think like the rooms themselves have a little bit of a common theme where it's like the only one that's really out of place is Akka, but even then it's like I only during the recording now that we're doing it, like talking about like the kind of Roman legionnaire inspiration where it's starting to kind of fit through the desert aesthetic, but
yeah,
I liked how it wasn't too overdone when it came to like the rooms themselves being like full of sand or whatever. Like it was just Kefri and Baba really that are just like predominantly yellow. And then I liked how Zebak shows like this other side of the desert where people think deserts are just, as someone who did grow up in a desert, people think it's just sand everywhere, just yellow, right? Whereas like Zebak is like the cool little desert swamp theme. And I could have easily seen like a sandstorm, like a bright red, like sand dune boss or some kind of boss that also involves like a bunch of mud everywhere instead of just typical like yellow.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's just like once you get into the final boss and it's just the same shade of red that you see in Versa where you feel like, is this just another boss in Theater of Blood? Like, it's the same as the Maiden Room. It's very like the bosses are high poly, but then the floor is completely empty. Whereas like Verzik, which also like I agree with Heartless, like Verzik had a really big chamber, but it felt filled in. Like you had these pillars. It wasn't big for no reason because the pillars in P1 fill up the rest of the room. Even in P2, like you've got these lush carpets and intricate designs on each tile where it's like it seems like a theater. It feels like a palace. This doesn't seem like a tomb or anything. It just seems like you walk out of the Oasis area, like the little prep region, and it's like you walked into a portal into a completely different game almost.
Yeah, like with Verzik specifically, it's a big room, but you've touched like 90% of those squares, right? They have mechanics that make you move around the room and make you appreciate how big the room is. Like just outside of the aesthetics, like you got the tornadoes, even the yellow balls, you got like all the stuff going on. With the last boss, you don't need like you don't even need half the room. There are mechanics where you have to move around where they have like those red lines that like they kind of segment the map and they kind of move around in a like a clockwise direction or counterclockwise, and you have to kind of avoid them. But really, you're just gonna step over the line and stay in your lane.
Right. And even then, like the best way to dodge them is stay as close to the middle as possible.
Exactly.
Like, you never have a reason to go to the end, like because the closer you are, the less the radius, the less you have to dodge.
Yeah, and also like just with the way that you're kind of like you're maging or ranging the boss, like you're gonna just try and stay in range the whole time, and you don't have to move, right? Like with Verzik, you're meleeing them, so when you move, it's because you have to. And with this guy, it's like if you're moving too much or you're going too far away out of range, you're like you can't really do damage, so you're kind of like moving too much. You kind of get punished for moving around too much, I guess. Right. They have like the little lightning things that land, and if you're standing in the same spot, like but in general, you can pick like a line from like the middle to like halfway into the room, and you can just bounce between there, and you're fine. And I do find it really weird that now you're fighting like a space pharaoh type thing, where like in the second phase you go to space, where I get the idea because I've seen that theme in other games like PoE, where that's literally like a boss where like they're known for like they bring you to another dimension and it's like this spacey thing and it's completely cut out from the entire aesthetic of the game. But that's the purpose, right? That's the purpose of the lore behind that boss. I'm no god of lore, so I don't really know why he's bringing us into like another dimension. It would have been a lot cooler if we were on like even like if they did the stereotypical like pyramid where you're on like a part of a pyramid or something and like blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Even lore wise, it doesn't, because the idea of the lore is like the Devourer comes in like from the quest and she awakens. She's trying to find like these centuries old weapons that have been hidden with these people who've been buried for like hundreds of thousands of years. So even if you believe like the whole conspiracy theory, like aliens helped build the pyramids or whatever, like maybe that's what they were going for to tie in like the space thing, but it doesn't come off right, because especially when the lore is all about how these have been like these weapons are forgotten to time. I wanted there to kind of like be this timelessness about the place where it's like blow off the dust off these like ancient relics and kind of pick up different relics throughout the fight. Like that's what I had in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels for something that's been buried for hundreds of thousands of years, it feels so new age and like so advanced. Like
exactly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like are there robots now? Like, you know, like next thing you know, they're actually like futuristic technology in there. I get it, we're old tech, you know, the old things are super powerful and all that. But yeah, it's the aesthetic was a little off the mark, but I don't think it takes away from the raid too much. It's not like I'm not enjoying the last boss because I'm in space. I love like the last phase where he's ripping the floor from the back and drawing you closer and closer to him. I that's like such a fun idea, and I love that. And I know I can see why they put the space aesthetic in, just to kind of add to that, where like there's a void that, you know, you could fall into potentially, I guess, you know, with this whole him ripping the ground from you. But yeah, it just yeah, it seems like it was like they just had an ideas guy and they just went with it.
See, the mechanic could have been what's the word I'm looking for? It could have been implemented even with like the sand theme, where imagine instead of it like pulling you into space for some reason, it was just like bottomless pit of sand that like is slowly creeping up to you, and slowly like more and more of the stable ground is falling into this abyss of sand, for example. Yeah. But honestly, like as I was thinking about this before we were recording, the more I think about the boss fight, the more it feels like they had this great idea. And if they delayed the raid by 6 months, it would have been like the best boss fight ever, where it was like, listen, we have these paths and people can choose which one they do first. And the idea is if you, like, depending on the ones you choose, they don't know this yet, but when they first go into the boss fight, the order they chose will like affect the way the bosses perform.
Yep.
And they had all these like cool little ideas. And then it got so close to the end of the development cycle where like, fuck, we just need to make something here. And so they just added a bunch of holograms of the bosses and like one or two mechanics.
Yeah.
And then just made it a very open room, like very low design, like low effort design compared to the rest of the fight.
Yeah. It's like they had an employee at Jagex that spent so much time doing the art for a room. They spent like 3 weeks and like, man, you spent a little bit too long designing this. What do you got? And you're like, I can tell you put a lot of work into this. This isn't hitting the spot, but there's not enough time now. So let's just put it in anyways. You know?
Yeah.
It's like that person in the group project, that took an extra, like, 3 or 4 days to do their part. And you're like, yeah, you did it. You put a lot of time and effort, but this is not part of the project. We're kind of, okay. We're just losing marks on that part.
Right.
Thanks, man.
Our project was on ancient Egypt and you did space.
Yeah.
orbit.
How aliens created the pyramids and stuff, or gave the,
Yeah.
It's like when you see concept art and it's so overly designed, but they made it using in-game whatever they use to make art, and they're like, "What do you like about this overly detailed concept art?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's great. Raids comes out tomorrow, though, so we're just gonna ship it."
It's like
you're doing concept art 1 week before the release.
It's like, hey, yeah, we got this bug that we gotta fix. Oh, sorry, our whole team's reworking the Missouri armor because it's 2 weeks until raids and no one likes any of the concepts. So all hands on deck for the armor. Good job, guys. Like, but yeah.
There it is, Raids 3 in a nutshell, basically. Very great time. Heartless, I do want to ask you, though, before we wrap up. Oh, I want to ask everybody, but Heartless, if you don't mind, we'll start with you. What was your raiding experience like? I know you mentioned you got up at 3 a.m. to do this, which I assume you were running on pretty low sleep.
Yeah, like I had so much fun. Like I just want to raid right now.
Yeah. No,
and the fact that we've been podcasting for 2 hours, I love podcasting, but I've been like, my foot has been like jumping up and down to get back in there, like I'm just desperate to get back in. I'm
you keep listing your party.
I love it. The only I agree with all the art stuff I was listening. Don't get me wrong, I do agree with them. The only thing I really wish they would add, and there's plenty of room, is invocations to change the puzzles to make them more complicated.
Fair.
Yeah, super cool.
Yep.
I think that would have been an easy. It's kind of an oversight in a way. Like maybe the tree takes twice as much to do, or whatever. They can make them complicated, but there's lots of room to add those. Then it scales up the raid without making the encounters necessarily harder. You can sort of add that puzzle element too.
Yep.
I think that would have been great. But there's always room to add that. But overall,
Yeah,
I had
totally.
so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. Like instead of it being just here invocations that just make everything hit harder, like imagine there was an invocation that made it more difficult just because it made you have to like think much harder. Like there's 6 different mirrors you have to use for this mirror puzzle now. There's like 7 different zigzags you got to do.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff they could have done with it.
All right, Magpies, what was your like first run through of Tombs of Amascut? Like, what were your thoughts? Do you remember what your experience was like?
Oh yeah. I also woke up at 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And I like set an alarm for 4 for like the update or whatever, but I woke up early, was there for release. And I just remember I talked about this right at the beginning of the episode. Like I'd never experienced that day one. What the hell are we supposed to do? And I remember very clearly like the moment that happened to me the first time when we went into Zebak and we had no idea like how to pull the water jugs or even what they were used for or anything, or even what the boulders are used for. And so he just throws a bunch of shit at us and we're like, okay, we'll just keep attacking him. And then he screams and all of us die and we immediately wipe and we're like, holy shit, that was super cool. Let's get right back into it. What the hell just happened? And that kind of experience was like, it summed up day one for me of just things going on that we had no idea about. And it was everything I wanted it to be, honestly, except for the fact that like, I'm kind of dry already. I want a couple purples, but
Yeah, I don't have 2 staffs. Shake my head.
Deagin, what about you?
So I wasn't like, I didn't get up at 3 a.m. I wasn't like running on empty raids review, shout out to Review Bra. But like I came in, I think it was 2.5 hours after release. I got up early, but I just had like a lot of real life stuff I had to do. So I got on and I joined Heartless's team. And so they'd already done like an entry mode clear. And they're like, okay, this is like what we've kind of figured out. Let's go ahead and do it. And I was able to kind of just jump in and like learn, oh, watch out for this. We try to do this on this, and then, so I didn't get to have like the pure like, have no idea what I'm doing, which sucks. But I still had a lot of fun of like looking at all these rooms and being able to like see what goes on. And I'm not trying to like, I'm not in the mindset of I have to figure out this room. It's like, I have an idea. What can I do to optimize this room? Right. Let me get out my notepad. Let me just take notes on like some things that are kind of like tricky and seems to like that can like ruin the fight for us, and see if there's any solutions I can come up with. So I had like a different lens on when I joined, but overall, like day one was super fun. I wasn't like giddy to play. I was like, oh yeah, I'll go on, I'll do a couple raids and then I'll go continue doing my things. And then next thing you know, I played like all day and it's like, shit, this is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying like, Tombs, and even like the whole like, okay, which like invocation should we run? Oh, okay. And you're like, everyone's kind of like tinkering with some ideas, and yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, that's great. I've similar. One thing that's positive, I've recently moved, so now I'm in like Atlantic Standard Time, which means I basically got to sleep in an extra hour because of this, the way, the time they release these updates. So, but I woke up about 5 a.m. and the update had happened. We had waiting for that 30-minute countdown for it to come back on, and then jumped on with found a group of about 7 others, and we were just kind of like, anyone who was wanting to do it just piled in the group, and we figured out we did each path, and we would do a path and then we would leave and reset it because we wanted to figure out each of the fights. Once we figured out all 4, we just went and zoomed right till the end. But it was, a ton of fun. And I always loved the discovery aspect of this game, and which is why I was so excited to do this day one. And I had the in-laws were staying with us because they came to help us kind of move some stuff since we just moved in. So they were staying with us, and I had the night before I had to prep them. I was like, I'm gonna play some video games tomorrow, and you're not gonna see me for a few hours. And I had to explain it so they didn't think I was rude if I was just hunkered down in the basement, which immediately proceeded to me being like explaining what Raids 3 was and RuneScape, and then it's like that meme where you have that. That meme where this couple is at like a baseball game, and the dude bro is like telling her something like, and she seems so uninterested.
That's what was starting to happen. But anyways,
Yeah, you kind of like prep them so when they come in the room and see your wife single-handedly moving a couch upstairs, and you're just like on the computer, like, okay, brew it up, like, they know what's going on. Like, okay,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a ton of fun, just figuring it all out and discovering, and it's yeah, it was good. Now, the only thing that was, I love the system. You know, I know we talked about it earlier, but I love how entry mode is very accessible. So we were doing it with someone who was like level 90, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And we did it with people who weren't really big into raiding, and again, wasn't that big of a deal on entry mode. It was still a lot of fun. Now, my only, I think, negative part about having it be that accessible is that it wasn't like Theater of Blood, where a lot of people were tuned in to a handful of streams because it was so hard that nobody knew what was going to happen. And the only way for you to discover what was going to happen was by watching these streams. You could discover it on your own relatively quickly, which is good. But I think with Theater of Blood, when on day one, it became this 2-day event for me, whereas Tombs of Amascut wasn't as long of an event because, you know, clears were happening pretty quickly. But at the same time, that might be good because I probably wouldn't have been able to stay hunkered in my office for 2 days straight. I would have had to like show my face, you know, from time to time. But it was a lot of fun. And again, mentioned it earlier, but I really hope these puzzles don't have these auto solvers coming out, or I hope Jagex says like, let's just not allow that, because it's kind of, I don't know. One thing, and Deagin, I'm curious to hear, because I know you play a lot of MMOs, so I'm curious to hear how you think this stacks up in terms of like other raids. But there's a game called MapleStory that some of us might be familiar with.
yeah.
And they have these things. They don't have raids. Well, they might now, but they have this thing called party quests, which is group content. And they have puzzles. And there's never been really these plugins to solve these puzzles, but you would figure out a way to make this puzzle as streamlined as possible because you are coordinating with 6 or 7 different people. And, you know, I'm sure anyone who's played MapleStory knows what puzzles I'm talking about. You know, the boxes with the numbers, and you're trying to figure out the combinations. So you start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and you kind of just work that way. But once you know it, everyone has their role, and you just kind of blast through it till you figure it out. And I hope these puzzles, when they become efficient, it's through us knowing the best way to solve these puzzles, and not because we have a plugin that's telling us, well, click these switches in order to solve it.
Yeah. The best type of power creep is like player innovation. You know, that's kind of what I'll always say. As long as it stays within the game, then I think it's a good thing, right? Like being able to solo Olm efficiently because Wook's figured out how to like run the head is awesome. But if that was figured out through a RuneLight plugin and there was like a, 3, 2, 1 click here, it's very, very different on how that happens.
Yeah. So yeah, overall, pretty great raid. Any last thoughts? What do you guys think this stacks? I guess it's still in the honeymoon phase, but is this the best raid we have so far?
No, I think Chambers is probably still up there for me.
That's number 1. Nice.
I'm kind of torn. I really like this raid, but yeah, I think Chambers will still be like my golden child.
Interesting.
You always love your first just a little bit more.
Yeah, Xerix was my first. I'm really spiritual now. Take a part of that. No, but I think what TOA can do, and that's part within the game and like within the raiding scene community. Is that weird to say? I don't know. I think it's going to fit perfectly. And I think a lot of people will love this, and it'll really help. Yeah, like kind of bridge different aspects of the community together, I guess.
That should be the tagline for TOA. TOA, something for the whole family.
Yeah.
Definitely. Heartless, any last comments before we wrap on up?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with them. It's good. It's definitely compares to Chambers for me with how much I enjoy it.
Do you like Chambers more than Top?
Infinitely more, yeah. Infinitely more.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
I've done about 500 Tobs as well. I just don't like it. that much.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
There are good
Mhm.
parts to it, but compared to Chambers, it just doesn't compare for me. And it's hard to put
Okay.
into words, but Top feels. I know I can do it like almost very, very consistently now with friends. We get completions all the time, but it's just so punishing. With the white mechanic being guaranteed every time, all of the rooms just have insta kills in them that wipe you.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very, very painful raid to learn. And even though I have learned it, I can like look back and sort of see it as a player who hasn't gone through the content. It is brutal to like find a team that's willing to take you, etc. Whereas this raid is just it's so much more friendly, and yeah, it scales to even beyond what Tob offers at the highest ends. And I think
Mhm.
it's perfect. So
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Like Chambers, I love it because it's super chill. I don't have to be in voice chat if I can't. And, we can joke around and like not be super serious. Theater of Blood, I felt so guilty joining teams when I'm like using a whip and they're all wearing sights. Like I'm like, I am an active, like, first of all, I'm under 50 kill count and I don't have a scythe. I'm hindering my team so much right now. And I'm going to die. And it's like, they have to kind of carry me until I figure it out. And,
Right, but I think it's the same to some extent to this raid. Like there have already been a couple times where the final like desperation phase is just a DPS check, and I've had to like be the last man standing a couple times, and it's impossible to do on like a 3-man, 4-man, 5-man scale if you're just like the only person left.
well,
So I feel like some of those gripes will come with time.
yeah, I know with
But then
Tombs,
you
I
can
don't,
just
and I don't
lower
know.
the invocations, like if it's too much for your team. Like Tob, you can't
Right.
do that. It's just too bad. Like go
Yeah.
again.
And I know they have a mechanic that changes the scaling dynamically in a fight because I've seen it happen where someone dies and you're in a 4-man, so you'd have to 2-hit the little skulls when they spawn in like during like the last stage of the boss. And someone dies, and when it goes like the next step, you can one-shot them because you're down to 3.
Yeah.
And I know they have some mechanics that dynamically scale, which is really nice to see. But it's day one, and we don't know what the extent of that is. But Tombs
Yeah.
can be as sweaty or as chill as you want. The only issue is like, the Baba puzzle room where you kind of need to communicate really well with people to fix the pillar, to do the vents. There's like little things like that prevent it from being super like, oh, I'm just gonna chill and relax, kind of like I'll do a couple chambers. It's
Right.
like I gotta get on voice chat
Right.
still, and yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But overall, great raid.
Awesome. Well, anyways, that's pretty much raids in a nutshell. It's overall, pretty fun stuff. Any final comments before we wrap on up?
I just one quick question, because I haven't been around for the content drought. I was hydrated and I was not in the desert, but so there's a 3-year gap from Chambers to Tob and like a 4-year gap from Tob to TOA.
1-year gap from Chambers to Tob.
Oh, one was it 1? Oh shit. Okay, damn.
2017, January 2017, Chambers came out. Tob came out July 2018.
Dang. Okay, I thought it was 3-year gap. Wow.
It's like a year and a half.
Okay, well, whatever. So 1.5 years, and then like a 3 or 4 year. Do you guys think that TOA will like when do you think the player base will start begging for raids 4?
Well, I think it's going to come sooner than the than this gap, because COVID won't be in there throwing in wrenches in the workplace. So I'd imagine within 2 years would be my estimate.
Do you think think people?
I think the items is going to be the biggest the hardest part to roll out, because now we have a new bow and staff and melee weapon from each 3 raids. What do you bring from raids 4? That might be the tricky one.
We've said that in the past, that that's the problem, and they've managed to find
Right.
items. So I think
True.
they could just
that's true.
they'll find
That's
things.
another gripe of mine. Small little side. Again, I like the raid. It's a positive for me. Thumbs up. But the other thing I have is just the items are starting to become a little too niche, where it's like now it's just stuff that hasn't been done for the sake of being done. Like, oh, it's a 2-handed staff. But then you also have like the 1-handed shield for magic that adds magic damage. But like every time I sit down, I'm like, okay, well, is there something else they can do? Am I just being a negative Nancy? And I come back and I'm like, yeah, there actually is a bunch of stuff. Like, imagine there was a halberd that would do more damage to something if you couldn't otherwise reach it with melee, to actually take advantage of the fact that it's a halberd. And then you're like, okay, well, that's pretty niche, but it changes so much of the game. Like already Ohm, if it's best installed for Ohm, immediately changes the mechanics for everything like that? Or what if it was a staff that actually improves like ancient magics by changing the mechanics of the spells? Like imagine it made the radius for Ice Barrage 5x5 instead of 3x3.
We should
Just slaps things like that.
We should have you on the episode that we've still yet to do, the bonus episode with the weapons.
Yeah.
I
Let's
think
do
you.
that.
I think you would like that.
Great. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up here. Thanks for listening, and it was great to have you guys on. We've never done one of these before.
Hell yeah.
and, it's been fun.
Yo,
Thanks for having us.
how many people
Yes,
will be
thank you.
around for Raids 4 recap? Gotta up those numbers.
Just 8 people.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Okay.
Take it easy.
See ya.
All right, have a good one, guys.